Glasgow is my home city. The densely populated Glasgow area is home to 1.8 million people. But to me, and many others, its greatest gift has been one of the two football clubs for whom it is widely known. So I'm diving headfirst into both sides of the divide to shed a light on the people and the issues behind the old firm that make it Scotland's great divide. I was born a Celtic fan. I was raised a Celtic fan.
Welcome to the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino. This week I'm joined by James and Paddy as we once again cover all things Celtic.
The same goes for Tino, head of major Celtic media outlet, the Celtic Exchange, who I paid a visit in his studio for a chat about the club and the city.
I wonder if you asked a Plymouth fan or a Livingston fan or a Dunfermline fan or whatever, they would say, oh, we're different, we're unique and stuff. I don't know. I suppose we didn't ask them those questions, but I do think Celtic are unique. Celtic's got the real unique history and backstory about, Celtic were born out of poverty. The whole reason the club was created was to basically feed the impoverished Catholic children at that time of the East End of Glasgow.
The old firm's story really begins with the foundation of Celtic by Irish priest Brother Walfrid and the subsequent unification of the Irish Catholic community in Glasgow. In a time when immigrant and native tensions were still raw, this created a tangible divide between the Irish and the native and Ulster Scots, largely Protestants, who adopted Rangers as a symbol of the Scottish and British establishment.
But back in the day it was Catholics supported Celtic and non-Catholics, or at least Protestants, would support Rangers, and that was the undercurrent for so long. Rangers famously had a signing policy where they wouldn't sign a Catholic until Mo Johnson in 1989, and that caused a bit of a storm at the time.
Anywhere else in the world it would have been a simple transfer, but when the Rangers manager revealed his new player this morning, the sporting community braced itself for an angry reaction.
To understand the extent of the rivalry is to understand Mo Johnston. Rangers refused to sign Catholics for much of the 20th century, breaking this rule with the signing of Johnston, a former Celtic fan favourite who had been filmed returning to Celtic Park just weeks earlier. Fan reaction at the time was mixed.
I never thought they were signing a Catholic, especially the one that did sign there. Just unbelievable. Can't get over it. I'll maybe wake up in the morning and it'll be true.
He's a good player, but you're Catholic. Rangers, their motto stands for "Are you ready?" and that's what it's for. It's for blue noses, it's not for Catholics. I don't agree with signing a Catholic up.
He's a Catholic and that's it. And this is a Protestant part of the country.
That was then though, and this is now. Few people have as much knowledge of Rangers as Jim Hanna, who was the club supporters liaison officer for several decades. I paid him a visit to hear more from the other perspective.
Older brother was like 10 years, maybe 12 years older than me, and my dad. Two of them were Rangers fans. They used to go to all the home games and away games in the supporters bus. Plus I stayed in Shield Hall Road, and when I went to my bedroom one day I could see Ibrox. My best mate, wee Glenn McAllister, he was a Celtic fan. And I can remember when the two started primary school and never knew anything about religion or anything like that. So we got up to the school gates and then Glenn's mum says, right, we'll see you later, and they walked on, and I went, says to my mum, I says, where's Glenn going to? He's not going to your school. She went, no, he goes to the Catholic school, and I went, I don't know what a Catholic school was, to be perfectly honest with you.
Sectarian tensions do, however, get serious. In 1995, Mark Scott was brutally killed by a stranger. The motive was revealed to be religious hatred based off the colour of his scarf. Scotland's first anti-sectarianism charity was set up in his memory, called Nil by Mouth. I spoke to their director, David Scott, in Glasgow.
But what I found with the football, it's a mixture of kind of passion, pantomime and poison. And it's the passion of the fact that there's nothing wrong with a Catholic or a Protestant or believe in the United Ireland or you believe in Britain should remain as it is, or being a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan. These are all honourable things to believe in. These are all honourable positions. The problem is then when that passion descends into how people use language or how people shout. So you can go to football matches, you can hear hundreds, sometimes thousands of people chanting things, shouting abuse at people, putting up banners that are antagonistic or sectarian or racist or there to inflame a kind of situation. And there's a performative element to that. Sometimes you've got to ask yourself how many of these people have these attitudes when they leave the football ground.
David asks an important question, but in Scotland we have a familiar answer.
People would talk about the idea of a 90-minute bigot.
A 90-minute bigot.
90-minute bigots, it's like, it's all right, it's just during the football, and then afterwards everyone goes back to their, their jobs and all that kind of stuff. It's not all right. It's not all right at any time.
I sort of ask, can you be a 90-minute racist? Can you racially abuse somebody on the ground and then say it's not the same outside? So I've never bought into that argument.
The term 90-minute bigot has undoubtedly become a cliche, but the relevance that Celtic and Rangers have to political and religious matters remains evident.
And we've just gone through a very big decade of identity politics, and in this city, these are the two main strands of identity, in Irish Catholic and British Protestant. These will remain the two dominant forms of identity, and so when the world is sort of veering around these things will come back to put into it.
It's Derby Day this weekend, as fans gear up for the 445th Glasgow Derby. I went to the two stadiums to speak to some fans.
Can't beat it, really. And when you win, obviously, the excitement in you, the roar in you.
I don't think you can, an atmosphere Celtic Rangers game, I don't think anybody can describe it. I think it's animosity with everything in it.
What is it you think that makes supporting Rangers different to supporting another team?
Because we're simply the best.
Just a different level. You can't really, unless you've been here and you've experienced it, you can't really describe it. It's just something totally different that you'll never experience on any other ground.
Me and my big cousin Scott, we went into Parkhead and we had a banner up, a Union Jack up our jersey. We got lifted, 10 off. I think we were only about 14-year-old at that time. My uncle here to then go to Glasgow police station. And we had told him we wasn't doing nothing and showed him the videos.
Another significance riding on the game is that it is the first time since 2018 that more than 1,000 away fans will be in attendance. In recent years, fan safety concerns have prevented away fans from having any allocation at all.
I think it's a welcome move. I think there's going to be 2,500-ish Rangers fans at Celtic Park on Sunday, and that helps create that atmosphere and helps make that game what it is. And I think ultimately the Celtic Rangers game is the biggest marketing tool that Scottish football has. And I think you need to highlight all the good stuff, the good energy and the passion that's involved in it. And you can only do that when you've got majority home fans, but an element of away fans as well.
Do you think that Celtic need Rangers and Rangers need Celtic?
100%. Definitely need one another. I mean, I can remember speaking to my contact at Celtic, and he said that when Rangers went out of the league into the 4th division, Celtic put all their season ticket prices up. And the fans just never reacted to it. They just says, "Nah, I'm not going." But the only reason we're going is because the Rangers Celtic games.
And last night I'd never seen when they sang God Save the Queen, when the Rangers came to Wolverhampton Town.
Scotland's legislation towards football fans is the one thing that the two supports may tend to agree on. In 1980, Celtic and Rangers fans invaded the pitch for a riot after the Scottish Cup final. Since then, the sale of alcohol at Scottish football matches has been illegal. Since the 2010s, several new bills have been brought by the Scottish Government to tackle fan behaviour and sectarianism. These have proved unsuccessful and unpopular.
Scotland, Glasgow, civilised society, you still can't get a drink at football games in 2025. And I just think that's barbaric. However, you can go to a rugby game in 2025 in Scotland and you can get a beer there, no problem. So football fans are treated differently. I think they're treated poorly. And I think there needs to be some adult conversations as to how to address that.
So where do people gather over 20, 30,000? Where else in society do they go? You don't see them in churches, you don't see them in civic spaces, you see them in football matches. So as society changes, I think what football gives us is that sense of who came before us. And if you think also about that tradition of oral history, we sing songs and we chant things, because that's a way of passing down history, who we are, a sense of conveying our identity.
What does Rangers mean to you and your family?
Well, I grew up, all families Rangers. Spoke
being younger, Dad used to always scream at the telly, like the history as well. Except most of the people that are Rangers fans, their family's been in it. Family's been Rangers fans.
The song goes, if you know the history, all the Celtic fans do know their history, and they know why it was founded, what it was founded for, and the values. They've never changed. The Celtic fans, whether you talk to a Celtic fan 20 years time or 100 years ago, they hold them same values.
On the eve of the match, I sampled a bit of the atmosphere on familiar and unfamiliar ground. And on match day, I made my way into the ground as fans were going about their usual repertoire. Others weren't lucky enough to enter the ground. In an unprecedented incident, police denied a large portion of Celtic fans entry to the ground. The fans were mainly members of the club's biggest supporter group, the Green Brigade. In a statement, the police said that the group involved posed a threat to the safety of people within the stadium and to the public due to possession of weapons and pyrotechnics. In response, the fan group said that they are considering legal action against the police for measures they described as draconian and unnecessary. Their opposite numbers, the Union Bears of Rangers, also publicly condemned police actions before the match. This was perhaps the perfect illustration of the one thing which unites two deeply divided groups. It doesn't take a genius to know that angry young men turning to violence isn't a Celtic Rangers thing, or even a Glasgow thing. The derby, however, is a uniquely Glasgow thing, which has given millions of people a sense of belonging in a city which has been struggling with its own identity for decades. And even though my team lost the game 3-2, I still went home proud of what my team stands for and what I grew up in. And I'm one of many whose mind would never be changed on that.